Hey, Andy.
Hey, Dad.
Why, here we are doing another episode of the TV Lounge.
Yeah, again.
It's only been, let's see, we had a little hiatus. It was 2010 when we did
10?
our last one.
Yeah. 10?
10. I looked at the time on the old files. 2010 was the last time we recorded a podcast together, and that was just audio.
Yeah. Wait, 15 years.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Like that.
Yeah. And I still have all those old episodes.
Yeah. Are we going to those? Well, yeah. I think those should be available online still.
I don't know if they're online, but they're on my computer. I mean,
if they're not, we should put them online.
We should put them online.
Yeah.
Well, here we are doing
what we could do is
TV
we could
Lounge.
Wait, what we could do is since those were audio only, we could go back to those and we could do like sock puppets, like lip sync. So then and you could have like the new remastered edition. We could make puppets of ourselves,
Okay, fine. You
actually
you do that.
I was totally kidding, but actually I think that's kind of an awesome idea to have two sock puppets like doing a podcast.
Better than that. Get AI to create two figures to recite what it hears.
Oh yeah, we just need we need to create AI versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then just set it to our old audio.
Absolutely.
Make ourselves look 15 years younger. And
yeah.
Maybe we should do virtual versions of ourselves now.
That might be an improvement. Well, we're back with the TV Lounge, and if people aren't familiar, we examine older TV shows and just pass along our thoughts and observations on them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them
maybe less well-known shows.
Yeah, I think this one we've chosen now is probably more well-known, although I tell you the truth, I never heard of it.
I've never heard anyone talk about it.
No.
Other than you mentioning it, and then I watched it because of that.
But I think that's because nowadays I'll hear people talking about television shows and they'll go, well, I was watching this one. I was watching that one. Where's this? This is on Paramount Plus. This is on Apple TV. This is on, what do you got to have 50 subscriptions to keep up with all these programs? And who can do that?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that is easily missed.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Anyway, shall we get this show on the road?
Yeah.
All righty. Well, this time around, we've chosen, because you remember we had a time travel show back all those years ago called Crime Traveler.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we've got another one now. It's called Timeless. I'll give you a little information on it. According to IMDb, Timeless tells the story of a mysterious criminal who steals a state-of-the-art time machine intent on destroying America by changing the past. And the only hope is an unexpected team, a scientist, a soldier, and a history professor who must use the machine's prototype to travel back in time to critical events. And while they must make every effort not to affect the past themselves, they also have to stay one step ahead of this dangerous fugitive. Now, Timeless first aired on NBC October 3rd, 2016. And although NBC canceled the series after one season, the series was renewed 3 days later. The 10-episode second season premiered March 11th, 2018, and ran until NBC canceled the series again in June of 2018. But a month later, NBC ordered a 2-part finale to conclude the series, and that aired in December of 2018. Now, as a side note, I think that's kind of cool. I like it when shows which they know they're headed out, they give you something for closure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get a conclusion to all the storylines rather than, well, you just saw the last episode and we're never coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's nice when they can, I don't know, wrap it up and close up some, tie up some loose ends.
It's either that or you just leave it up to the whims of people who write fan fiction.
Right. Now, do we know much of the story? Do we know the story of what happened when it was canceled and then 3 days later?
No,
not uncanceled.
I'm assuming there was quite a bit of outcry, or maybe one of NBC's executives' family liked the show so much that they pressured them to keep it. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's got to leave the showrunner though feeling a
little
precarious, confused, or just, I mean, I think most TV shows kind of start out and they feel like, well, let's see how long this will last, and they feel like it could kind of go at any moment, and I'm sure a lot of shows kind of try to keep in mind, well, if this ends early, how are we going to wrap it up? But yes, having your show actually canceled and then getting it back a few days later has got to leave you feeling a little, I don't know, precarious.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, Timeless stars Abigail Spencer as Professor Lucy Preston, Matt Lanter as Master Sergeant Wyatt Logan, and Malcolm Barrett as Scientist Rufus Carlin. Now, the bad guy is named Garcia Flynn, and he is played by, I know I'm going to mess this name up. He's played by Goran Vishnik.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Timeless has an IMDb rating of 7.6. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics...
Out of how many?
What's that?
Out of how many?
Out of 10.
I'm just kidding.
Right. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics, 91%. And the audience, 87%.
That's not bad.
After having seen the first episode, what do you think of those ratings?
Well, to be honest, the ratings, the Rotten Tomatoes ratings are higher than I would have expected.
But
then Rotten Tomatoes is a little, it's not necessarily like a really critical, or I mean, it's either a thumbs up or thumbs down, basically.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, I feel like the show it's kind of good enough that it probably kind of passed people's like, it's good. But as far as the percentages, that I'm almost surprised that critically it was 91%. I would think it'd fall more in like the 70s or something.
Yeah. But I agree. But for one main aspect, and I'm going to ask you, how do you think, having again just seen this first episode, how do you think they handle time travel?
I think, I don't know, probably kind of as well as you can, I guess, kind of in a TV setting. They're not trying to do anything kind of groundbreaking or revolutionary.
No.
They kind of explain away. I feel like they did okay at kind of setting up the rules. Well, we can't go back to this point because we can't undo this, and they kind of just set up the ground rules pretty well. I think it's kind of your typical time travel rules and stuff. Nothing really like new or different, but I do think the idea was interesting of the two.
I'm going to throw
machines.
one. Yeah, I'm going to throw one thing.
Is kind of an interesting.
I'm going to throw one thing out here from watching this episode. You definitely get the impression that what you're dealing with is a single timeline, because they talk about if something gets changed, you don't get a branching timeline, you get a change to the timeline.
That's true.
And there's one aspect about this that bugs me a lot. And that is, you're a scientist and you discover there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize the solution to the problem is to send somebody back in time to fix one little thing, maybe turn a knob or, do some small thing. Well, the second that you send that person back in time, if nothing has changed, they failed.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like they go back to Tuesday and they have till Wednesday, and in the present, it's Tuesday and you have to wait till the next day. No, the past is done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and if they go back in time, the instant they leave, if things change and are repaired, then, they were successful. Except if they fix the problem doesn't exist, and there's no reason to build a time machine to send somebody back to fix a problem that doesn't exist anymore.
Right. It kind of just turns into a tangled mess.
Well,
but
it's I can't remember what Doctor Who called it, a timey-wimey something or other.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mess.
What wasn't it in? Oh wait, was it in the? It was in the Flash movie where Batman compared it to like a plate of spaghetti.
Yeah,
which that's really kind of.
Yeah, but he was talking about like a multiverse.
A multiverse, yeah, but
yeah.
I feel like
in this show, Timeless, I don't think we're dealing with a multiverse.
No. But yeah, you start dealing with all these paradoxes and stuff, and it really is kind of messy to think about.
That's why a couple of times, and in this episode of Timeless, they go to send, the good guys back, and they say the bad guy has like a head start. Well, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because he's gone back already and he's done what he's done. And anyway, shall we?
It doesn't matter how long they wait before they send someone
exactly.
Because the second he leaves, he's done his thing, which is
right.
Kind of why I was kind of rolling my eyes a little bit when they put the team together, the historian and the soldier and the three of them that they just it's so fast. They gather them up, and it's like it feels like they got prepped for maybe a day or a couple hours, and they shove them in the time machine and send them off. But in reality, there would be so many committees and panels and discussion and safety and reviews and all this stuff. It would take weeks and weeks before they ever sent them back.
Except for one thing. This time machine is not owned by the government.
I mean, that's true. But still, it felt like, hey, you're a historian, fun, and you shove them in. Yeah. Well,
shall we get into the first episode?
Yep.
Let me give you a rundown of what happened. The first episode is the pilot, and it's titled, are you ready for it? Pilot. Original, huh?
Yeah.
They could have called it Hindenburg because, the episode begins with the crash of the Hindenburg on May 6, 1937. There's a woman photographer standing right under where the Hindenburg is going to land. But then it bursts into flames and comes crashing down. The girl photographer is trying to run out of the path of the flaming wreckage, but we know she doesn't make it. We'll cut to present day, where we find Professor Lucy Preston giving a history lecture. And following her lecture, she's told that the committee meeting to consider her for tenure has been canceled. Lucy goes home. We see her mother lying in bed, hooked up to some medical monitors, and we meet Lucy's sister, Amy. Now, with that, we cut to the facility that houses the time machine. Rufus Carlin enters and goes to his workstation. Outside the gate of the facility, a dark vehicle approaches. In the passenger seat, it's the bad guy, Garcia Flynn, and he's holding what appears to be a very old book with handwritten notes and drawings. Back inside, Rufus is approached by a guy who seems to be some sort of supervisor. He tells Rufus that it's Rufus's turn to make a run to get tacos for everybody because it's Taco Tuesday. Suddenly, there's gunshots and the bad guys enter. One of these henchmen is shot and killed by a guard. Then Flynn and one of his men force this supervisor fella into the time machine, and it disappears. Back to Lucy's house. There's a knock on the door. It's an agent with Homeland Security. He takes her to the time machine facility and puts her in a room that has a sign reading Mason Industries. Also in the room is another main character, Master Sergeant Wyatt Logan. A Homeland Security agent, Denise Christopher, she comes in and briefs them on the bad guy, Garcia Flynn, an ex-NSA asset. They're told that Flynn killed his wife and child and went off grid a year ago. Well, then Connor Mason, the founder of Mason Industries, comes in, and they learn that he invented a time machine. Now we bring in another time machine. It's the prototype model that they keep in reserve, a backup for possible rescue missions. Mason explains that because the two time machines have linked CPUs, they know the date the first time machine traveled to, but not where. The main machine went to May 6, 1937. Also, that dead bad guy has an address in his pocket of a tavern in Manchester, New Jersey. Lucy immediately knows that Flynn has gone to the landing of the Hindenburg. Now, she realizes they want her to go back in time because they need a historian to go with Wyatt the soldier who's supposed to kill Flynn. Then we see Mason telling Rufus that Rufus, has to go with them in the time machine. So Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus get into the time machine with Rufus at the controls. The machine vanishes and then appears in the midst of a forest area. They get out, and Wyatt, the tough Delta Force soldier, throws up. Our trio catches a bus into town. They stop at a newsstand to get a paper before going to the tavern at the address they got off that dead bad guy. Lucy sees the woman photographer from the beginning of the episode. She says the woman is Kate Drummond, who's a newspaper columnist. Wyatt shows Kate the picture of Flynn, and she tells them that Flynn is going to be working with the ground crew at the Hindenburg's landing. Well, next, Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus are outside the tavern walking down the sidewalk. Wyatt is obviously smitten with Kate, but Lucy tells Wyatt that Kate only has about 90 minutes left to live. At the landing field, Wyatt spots Kate under the Hindenburg. Then Lucy sees Flynn. She tries to get Wyatt's attention, but Wyatt's with Kate, trying to get her to come away from where she's standing. Because remember, first of the episode, the Hindenburg, blows up and falls down on her. He tells her it's going to explode. But no, the Hindenburg makes a safe landing. Lucy follows Flynn into a hangar, and Flynn's henchman grabs her. Wyatt rushes in and shoots the henchman. Wyatt asks Lucy if she's okay, and she says no, because Flynn just saved the Hindenburg. Wyatt searches the bad guy that he killed, and he pulls a walkie-talkie from his jacket. Rufus says he can rewire it and use it to find Flynn. But Rufus tells the others that he can't use the radio to track Flynn because it's been modified as a detonator for a bomb. Lucy realizes that Flynn wants to blow up the Hindenburg on the way back to Europe. All of a sudden, the police burst in. They see the body of the henchman, and they arrest Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus and throw them in jail. Lucy quizzes Wyatt about his thing for Kate Drummond. And Wyatt says she looks like his wife who died, and it was his fault. On board the Hindenburg, Kate passes a couple of men dressed as staff, but it's really Flynn and one of his guys. Back in jail, Wyatt tells Lucy to take off her bra. He takes a piece of wire from the bra and picks the lock. They get back to the Hindenburg and they tell Kate about the bomb. She says she saw Flynn coming out of the kitchen. So they search the kitchen and they find the bomb. But the Hindenburg has lifted off and it started its flight back to Europe. Lucy asks if Wyatt can defuse the bomb. He says he's had some training in Afghanistan. Lucy and Rufus grab a couple of kitchen knives and they storm the ship's control area. They tell the crew that they are the Black Cross anarchists and they planted a bomb on the ship. They demand that the crew land the Hindenburg. In the kitchen, bad guy bursts in, but Kate and Wyatt overpower him, and Wyatt cuts a wire to defuse the bomb just seconds before exploding. The bad guy pulls out a gun, it discharges up into the ship, starts a raging fire. The Hindenburg explodes while Lucy, Rufus, Wyatt, and Kate, they all get off the ship. On the ground outside, Flynn confronts Lucy and shows her the book that he had at the beginning of the episode. Well, Lucy says that's her handwriting. Flynn says that's because she wrote it, or rather, she will write it. He tells her to ask about something called Rittenhouse. Well, then Wyatt spots Lucy talking with Flynn and runs over to confront him. They have guns pointed at each other, with Flynn using Lucy as a shield. Wyatt fires and hits Flynn in the shoulder. Flynn shoots back, but Wyatt dodges out of the way. Unfortunately, Kate was standing behind Wyatt and she gets shot. Flynn escapes and Kate dies in Wyatt's arms. Well, now we're back at the time travel lab and the machine with Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus reappears. They're met by Connor Mason, Agent Christopher, and one of the other workers named Jaya. They review the historical record of the Hindenburg, which now has a different date and some other information. Agent Christopher denies any knowledge of Rittenhouse. Rufus tells him Flynn is back in the present day, but he doesn't know where. Lucy puts forth a theory that Flynn's trying to, as she says, kill America in the crib. Well, after the debriefing, Rufus hands a recording device to Mason. He was recording all the conversations they had while the three of them were together. Now there's a series of quick shots, including Wyatt in a bar looking at a picture of himself and his wife. Then Flynn is seen reading the notebook, and the page he's looking at has notes about the 1969 moon landing. Lucy returns home and finds that her mother is up and about in the kitchen preparing food. She's not in bed in a coma. Mom takes Lucy's hand and asks where her engagement ring is. When Lucy asks where her sister Amy is, Mom says, "Amy who?" With the changes to the timeline, Lucy no longer has a sister. The phone rings. It's Agent Christopher. Flynn has made another time jump. Roll credits. That about sums up the first episode, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know there's some changes to the timeline. The Hindenburg exploded on May 7th instead of May 6th. Lucy's mother's well and healthy, but no sister Amy.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucy is apparently engaged to be married. We don't know if there's any changes for Wyatt or Rufus.
And what's interesting is it's not just that like her sister has died or something. It's like never existed because she says Amy who.
Right.
Well, I mean, I
She-
guess
she never was.
Maybe it's that but it seems to be implying that she like never had a sister. Period.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I did want to say something about the name Rufus Carlin,
Yes.
which is clearly a reference to Bill and Ted, because
Right,
the character
right.
Rufus was played by George Carlin. So I
George
thought that was pretty
Carlin.
funny that they chose that name, Rufus Carlin. For him.
Right. And it was George Carlin that showed Bill and Ted how to run the time machine. So he was
Right.
kind of like the pilot of the time machine.
Yeah.
I had a couple of thoughts on things at the beginning of the episode. After that wonderful history lecture, Lucy's told that the committee to consider her for tenure
Mhm.
isn't going to be meeting. And she thinks that, well, she says, why? She says she's busted her ass in this job and that her mother built the department. So she wants to get special consideration for tenure just because her mother built the department. I'll tell you something, though, based on that lecture, would you give her tenure?
No, I hate it. I didn't like the lecture at all. I was really annoyed that the episode started off like that was our introduction to her character, was that
Right.
lecture. I just thought, why are you like bringing this? Why is this going to be a theme in the show? Like, why are you talking? I don't know. I found it annoying I felt the same way about the opening line of Kate or whatever talking, oh, men always obsessed with size, or I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, just cheap jokes.
Yeah, so right off the bat, that was one thing that kind of, for me, it was a kind of off to a bad start, just because those couple things left a bad taste in my mouth. But then, but by the end of the episode, I was kind of hooked in enough with, just kind of some of the time travel stuff. But those couple of things didn't leave a lot of confidence for me in the writing. It just kind of made me roll my eyes.
Exactly. Couple other things I noticed: linked CPUs in the time machines. Oh, come on, that's not even good technobabble.
I know.
Couldn't they have come up with something
better? That's the most basic technobabble. That concept is kind of interesting, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like I need a little more explanation. Just linked CPUs. I don't know.
Anyway, and then the one scene where Lucy is changing into her clothes for their trip back to 1937. She complains about this skirt was in this and this fabric and this bra. They didn't have underwire bras back then. And then, Wyatt walks by and says, "Who's going to see your bra?" And when I saw that, I thought, if that isn't foreshadowing something, I don't know what is. It's so blatantly obvious.
Yeah. It did a couple of things. It was like that felt like a moment that they were trying to just tell us, the audience, that, oh, she's really knowledgeable about everything in history and all the details, and then foreshadowing that thing with the underwire. But
well, as kind of a side note, Lucy is not just the historian of the show. She's the person in charge of exposition.
Mm-hmm.
She has to explain everything.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing that cracked me up, when they're getting the newspaper, did you notice that sign in the store behind them in a window? It was advertising fresh killed chicken. When's the last time you went to the grocery store and they were advertising fresh killed chicken?
Yeah. Can I have some fresh chicken? No, fresh killed chicken.
That's right.
I want it fresh killed.
And didn't you love I like this a lot, the bit about the pajamas when they show the picture of Flynn to the
Yeah.
the bartender, and you ask, why is he wearing pajamas? And it's just a jumpsuit. But
Right.
tell me you didn't flash back to Marty McFly and his vest.
Oh, I didn't think of that, but yeah, that is kind of a similar moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of shocking though. I mean, like that is something, I don't know, just looking at often I look at the past and the way people dressed in the past and how much more dressed up they were. I just
Right.
We're kind of, I don't know. We look pretty sloppy today by comparison, but
Yeah.
I kind of liked the design of the time machine, I guess. It kind of looks like an eyeball, which I don't know. It's kind of cool, I guess. So yeah. I don't know. Overall, I had I was gonna say
Oop.
did you pick up the reference to Elon Musk?
Yes. Yeah. When they first meet Connor Mason.
Yeah, the what's his name says.
Wyatt says, "I
you're Connor Mason.
Cars.
My buddy has one of your cars."
Yeah, one of your cars.
Yeah, which I thought, they're making him like an Elon Musk. Which yeah, it was interesting.
I liked it. Well, I was thinking about remember how Rufus said that walkie-talkie that they took off the.
I was just going to bring up the walkie-talkie.
How he could change it to track Flynn.
Yeah, he could say he could rewire it to track. That was another thing. I was like,
I'm sorry.
What do you mean you could rewire a walkie-talkie to track someone?
Especially with 1937 technology.
Like, how dumb do you think your audience is that you can get away with that line?
Oh, and it made me think. He said it's a detonator for a bomb, right?
Yeah, but he said it had a blasting cap in it.
Well, this gets me. Okay, it had the walkie-talkie as a detonator for the bomb.
With a blasting cap in it.
Yeah, but when they find the bomb, it has a timer.
Right.
So which is it?
Well,
which sets the bomb off?
I guess maybe that was like the fail safe. So if the timer failed, then they could like push the blasting cap in the walkie-talkie, which really should just make the walkie-talkie explode.
Yeah.
Right? Am I misunderstanding what a blasting cap is?
I don't know.
If there's a blasting cap inside of a walkie-talkie, wouldn't that just blow up the walkie-talkie?
You'd think that wouldn't be a good idea.
But I mean, yeah. Unless I don't understand the definition of a blasting cap.
Of course, Wyatt disarms the bomb with seconds to spare.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody on TV or in a movie ever disarmed a bomb with more than just a few seconds left? Does anybody ever disarm a bomb that's set to go off in 15 minutes?
I would really like
or
to
an
see
hour
that
and a half.
Yeah, where they catch it and they just disarm it with like 90 minutes to go or something. I like that about Galaxy Quest, that moment when they're like disarming.
Oh, I forgot that.
The bomb is counting down.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not able to disarm it and they think they're going to die, but then the bomb just stops on 1. Right. Because they had imitated all the TV shows and they just saw that every time a bomb, it just always stops at 1 and never goes off.
1.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple other things I wanted to mention, and that was when Flynn was talking about Rittenhouse. We don't know anything about Rittenhouse. I have a feeling that whatever Rittenhouse is, it's going to be the big bad guy of the series.
Although I'm kind of not sure. Like as well, obviously they seem like the bad guys right now, but I feel like there's a lot of implications that there's something bigger. The fact that he has, what's her name? Kate? No, what's her name? The main.
Which one? Lucy.
Lucy. He has Lucy's book with her handwriting, and the way their interaction happened and the way he talked to her. There was something about just kind of his manner that I felt like. I don't know. I almost felt like he was the one to be trusted, or I don't know that he knows what's going on. He didn't strike me as like a villain. He struck me as someone who's up to something really big, but
that he's more good guy than bad guy.
Yeah, like I doubt that Lucy said, I think he's trying to, kill America in the crib. I just don't think that's the case. I think it's something
Well, think about it.
different than that.
If you were going to kill America in the crib, why go back to 1937? Why not go back to 1737?
Yeah, no, he's up to something much bigger.
He's up to something else.
He's orchestrating like this piece and this piece and this piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, couple of other quick little things I noticed. When Flynn shoots Wyatt and Wyatt dodges out of the way, how good are Wyatt's reflexes to dodge a bullet?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Come on. All right, I couple of fast things. I keep saying that. What happened to that supervisor that Flynn kidnapped and forced into the time machine? The one who told Rufus, it's your turn to get tacos. We never saw him.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Flynn seems to have a lot more henchmen in 1937 than the one guy that got in the time machine with him.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Maybe he hired some, some thugs in 37.
Yeah, maybe he hired Doug, or maybe he made a pit stop and picked up some buddies in another year, and then.
Yeah. Now you remember at the end of the episode,
henchmen definitely seem like bad guys. I mean, they seem like Rent a Henchman type guys.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That at the end of the episode, when we see Flynn looking at the book and he's looking at information on the moon landing, you kind of think, "Ooh, episode 2," but
moon landing. Yeah.
Yeah, he was looking at information on the moon landing.
Yeah, but that's not where the next episode.
No, next episode is assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one giant question to end this on, kind of. Okay, Flynn has this notebook written by Lucy, and he says that she will write it. So in other words, it's in the future still, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how did he get a copy of this future notebook before he stole the time machine? See, and who said anything about the time machine?
Hopping around.
About the time machine going to the future. They never said anything like that. So how'd he get this notebook?
Maybe
if he didn't have a time machine.
Maybe he's from the future. Maybe he stole the time machine in the future.
Okay.
Came back. Yeah, that's what I think is he's actually from the future and he's up to something, but the only way he could keep going, maybe the time machine got destroyed or something, but he had to steal the time machine in the past to keep doing his thing.
That makes sense.
I think that's what it is.
That somehow, he's from the future and he traveled back to what we call the present day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's his past.
All right. Now that kind of makes sense for that, but I couldn't see how in the world could you get a book that hasn't been written yet.
Yeah. One thing I'm kind of it's got me hooked into the, like, oh no, her sister doesn't exist anymore. Oh, her mom's better. And what, things are being changed. And then this kind of bigger story with Rittenhouse and everything. I'm kind of wanting to follow those lines and get answers. I'm sort of less interested in the going forward, like in the kind of the episodic, Abraham Lincoln is next and kind of what happens. I don't know. I'm not as I don't know if I'm going to be super interested in the freak. It's not a freak of the week, but
yeah, exactly. You want each
the weekly story. I just kind of want to follow the overarching story and
the episodes, even though they're kind of episodic, should give us a little more information about what the big picture is.
Yeah.
But I guess next time we'll find out about Abraham Lincoln.
Well, how would what rating would you give it out of, like, just based on this first episode? If you had to score, like, out of 10.
Out of 10? 7.
I think that's kind of where I'm at, like a 7, where it's got me interested enough that I'm like, yeah, I would want to watch the second one and kind of see where it goes.
Exactly.
I'm curious. I'm curious where, I don't know, just kind of the trajectory of the show, and say in 10 episodes how it's going to feel, or what are there 2 seasons? How many seasons did it go?
There were 2 seasons and a wrap up.
Okay. It feels about the way that it started. That sounds about right. I mean, it feels like a show that's kind of, the length of time that I got.
Yeah. Well, I'm like you. I want to see more of how things play out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got the first one done. I guess we'll get together again and take on episode 2.
Okay.
That wraps up this episode. Join us again next time here in the TV Lounge.